This is the 8-Bit Cubist by Mr. Benja. Welcome.
Hello world, this is Mr. Benja with the 8-Bit Cubist podcast. I know you've been waiting a long time for this, but things were things. We'll get into exactly what was going on with me and why I have taken this long to put it out, but nothing needed to be rushed. Anyway, what you're about to listen to is a short recording that I did with my old compatriots, Jeff and Raphael. We had a rare opportunity to get together, and we decided to take that opportunity to record something for you in preparation for this new podcast. Now, what you should expect going forward is not your normal type of podcast. This is not about video games. This is not about, what you should be playing. This is not about, just getting stuff off, our chest or my chest, since this will primarily be a solo podcast. This is more of an art and philosophy venture. What I mean by that is, going forward in the future, we'll be really getting to the heart of why I started creating artistic work in the first place. And I think there's a lot to be discussed there and a lot to be covered. And honestly, it really harkens back to a lot of the discussions I've had with many of you just on a one-on-one basis. So being that these discussions happen on a one-on-one basis, that's what I plan to bring to you in the podcast form, a one-on-one type of discussion. That said, this recording was a return to our collective gatherings that we used to have in San Diego. So it's not fully in the format, but we'll pick that up and we'll fix everything as we go along. And bear with me as I, regain these podcast legs, these podcast lungs here. All right, well, without further ado, here's the podcast. Hope you enjoy it.
I think we're good with the levels there. No, we just let me put this off the table so yeah, no, just trying to punch it up a little bit,
Yeah. So, I want to do it as we used to do, where we start talking shit for just a second while it's recording, get back into the groove of things, and then we'll pick up at some point and I'll officially jump in.
Man, I'm scared. I haven't done this.
It's been a while.
There was a flow.
There was a flow, man. That was a flow.
That flow is gone for me anyway.
Have you recorded anything since?
No.
All right.
Not at all. It's
That's Oceanside. That's the last time I recorded with you guys.
God. Man.
Damn.
Time. It's
Uh-huh.
a thing.
Yeah.
That's a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
We were just young men.
Babies. Totally.
Oh man. Some of us are younger than others. Some of us are just old ass men now.
Yeah. So, how you guys been?
Good.
Alright, I guess.
Can't complain.
Yeah, just
I'm not dead.
Good. Good. That is a good start. So they know where I've been.
Okay.
All right. So they know who I am. I've been posting. I restarted the 8-Bit Cubist last year. Restarted quite a few parts of it. The website, the shirts, and all that jazz. So people have been hearing from me. Tell them I'm starting a podcast, and they think I'm starting from ground zero. But no, I'm not. I have friends. So, once again, my name is Mr. Benja from the 8-Bit Cubist, and I'm sitting here today with
Raph from Santa Monica.
Raph from the Santa Monica streets, and my old friend
Jeff from San Diego by way of San Francisco.
By way of. Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were doing by way of. I should have.
Oh, shit.
Right.
No. I'm definitely not from Santa Monica, but
Because I don't want to represent SD all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what
Right,
you're saying.
so-
Yeah.
No, man. It's, right off the bat, man. It's good to have you guys back together, back here, in front of the microphone, doing the thing.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
It's been a while.
So I guess I'll just start off by bringing everybody up to speed because I was about to record, and then I got a message from Jeff saying that he was going to be available and wanted to come down and talk some shit, hang out,
Mm-hmm.
and we got Raph in the mix too. He was available,
Mm-hmm.
so we figured what better to do than a podcast.
Wow, that is the same microphone, right?
Yeah, no, I pulled it out and did some tests with it. I brought the microphone out and was talking to a few of my art friends, and I was like, "Do you mind if I record you?" And I recorded them. Yeah, same stuff.
That's like a time machine. I'm like all of a sudden back in Oceanside, drinking and talking shit with y'all. Man,
Good times, right?
indeed.
So, although I came from programming,
Mm-hmm.
I went to design, but I started out programming, and I would say that's kind of where much of my direction comes from. So, I'm kind of the programmer of this little trio right here. Jeff, you've been doing design for quite a bit,
Right.
and where have you been?
I'm still in design, so I'm over at Jam City doing mobile game design, which is its own like brand of whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just crazy.
And we met at Rockstar Games. All of us, all three of us,
Right.
got together at Rockstar Games in San Diego. But even before that, Jeff and I had run into each other at 3DO
Mhm.
in the Bay Area.
Yep.
But before that, even you were making moves in where?
I started off at Sega.
Yes.
Yeah. So Sega back in '93.
Damn.
Right. Genesis. So I'm the O and the OG.
You're the elder statesman here. You're the elder statesman.
But Genesis was strong, man. Like
It
that
was.
is still like between Sega Genesis and the Sega Dreamcast.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like PlayStation 1 is definitely in there, but I feel like those three, it's the best.
It was an interesting era because it's like at the time it's like, there was the NES, and then the SNES, and then Genesis, and the market was still strong. Like there were enough people to fill out two camps, and it's like you're the Sega head or you're a Nintendo head. I mean, I don't know about you, but like back then I couldn't roll with like two different systems, so you had to pick one or the other.
Yep.
But it was astonishing when you think about like at that point in time, the market was still able to sustain both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say that now, but I don't know. It felt like the lines were a lot more like settled there, and it was understood.
Yeah.
You had these different sides, and it's like there was very little crossover, if any.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting time to kind of come into all of it.
And then from there, as I said, you went through a couple of places.
Yeah, so Sega, then went to, let me see, geez, I'm gonna have to go through the whole resume here. So Sega ended up leaving for a gig at EA for a little bit. Of course, EA, then and still is now, its own, flavor, and it just wasn't really something I was feeling. So I ended up leaving, went to Fox Interactive over in LA. So I moved to Culver City. Ended up not really feeling that. It was just more of the job that I had, and so went back to the Bay, and then that was 3DO. That's where Ben and I hooked up, met up there, and then from there, Rockstar, moved down to San Diego, and to a couple other companies here and there, Zynga, and now Jam City.
Yeah. So I wanted to do that just to let people know that you're just not some guy who rolled in, last Tuesday, talking about I know this industry or whatever.
I didn't like just learn this shit on Udemy.
Oh.
Not that I'm saying I'm not like trying to talk shit about
I'm canceling my account right now.
but I've seen some things.
Yeah. So I brought that up. Just want the history a bit. Just to kind of give a grounded base of where we are. And I've been, starting with 3DO and then Rockstar with Jeff. After that, I spent a little while just trying out some little different things. There was an app company, WowWee, the toy company, Sony Santa Monica. I ended up working as a pharmacy store manager at one point.
Oh yeah.
Down in San Diego. That was interesting and fun. I bounced around, did a few different things. Always maintained the art side of it, and I don't mean production art because Raphael, that's his area, but just hanging around in the arts. Now, Raph, you're an actual artist.
I would like to remove the art from production art. It's
Okay.
just production.
It's just production.
It's not art.
It's not art.
And it's absolutely not art. I think art means that it's driven by creative individuals who want to do something that is soulful and actually representative. Production, what I do is paint by the numbers, be as safe as possible. Don't rock any boats because you're doing things for consumers, and consumers are dumb. So, but yeah, no, I started off in Rockstar with you guys. I actually, every time I see you guys, I think about that conversation.
Oh man.
At
You're talking
the
about the sushi lunch?
And as I was driving up, I thought about this conversation and just shook my head, and it's just like, youth, man.
Give some context here.
For the
Well,
people, it's.
You don't have to go too long, but go ahead.
I really thought I was going to change the entire industry and change Rockstar Games because I was passionate enough to really give them good work, and they were going to see that things could be done in a better, more creative way. And this, for the listeners, this lunch was when I was sat down by Jeff and Ben.
And
And
AJ.
Oh, that's my
Don't
God!
forget,
And
AJ.
AJ.
was there, yeah.
And they explained the order of the universe.
We learned you a couple things.
I did not like that order, and I resisted that order for a very long time. But they were right. So, but yeah, I quit Rockstar, and then soon after moved up to LA. Did a few gigs bouncing around the game industry. Realized I hated the game industry, but loved video games. So then I switched to VFX and did low-level VFX for a while, and then switched to high-level VFX. And actually, starting last year, I got into costume design, and it's kind of because of all the superhero movies. A lot of these costume designers do not know how to design superhero outfits. And because of my sculpting background, I can actually utilize that on top of actors' bodies and help create the look of superheroes and other things. And that's what I've been doing the past year.
Very cool. Very cool. And I'm going to see if we can get this one guy on the phone right quick. What'd you call him? Like the fifth Beatle or something?
You're talking about.
Well, let's see if he picks up.
Okay.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that lunch. But it had to be told.
It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Thank you. Thank you.
You let someone know you're going to call them, and you hope they pick up. See how your friend? Oh,
boo.
That's why he's the fifth Beatle.
Yes.
Yeah.
that other bone thug that. Like, who's that on the poster?
That's a late thug. I don't know.
So yeah, but within all of that, we did have a certain connection, and that was just in terms of art, style, fashion, a lot of the elements of life. Just what we got into gaming, I think, for was just that appreciation of this medium, and what it could in fact do to the world, change everything basically. Well, now I'm getting a text message back, so we may have this call still.
Does he double space his text messages?
I
That's
think,
impressive.
yeah, he just double spaced his text messages.
Oh wow, that's a man of principle.
Yeah.
Yes, as a principled man.
That's also the most Theo thing ever,
Right.
is double spacing text messages.
Ben, I told him I call it 6:30 at 7:30 his time.
Is where he at now? Is he still over in?
Yeah, he moved to Florida, so he's in like
While we're waiting on that, so I've always been a proponent of all experience is good experience, even bullshit ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it was soul crushing for you to be a production artist, but do you ever find that some of the stuff that you did do or learn or experience from that carries over into what you do now, or some lessons there?
I think the tools are pretty much the same. I mean, it's still Maya, ZBrush,
Right.
with some additions of things that are more popular now and better programs. But
I guess more like a mindset, or at least because production obviously has its own kind of cadence. And
yeah,
there is a certain amount of kind of have to be on it. I'm wondering if some of that has spilled over. Because I know with me sometimes it's tough to really stay on top of my own personal projects, and I know that with production there's a certain level of discipline that needs to kind of come with it. I mean, some of it is just artificial because it's work.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if that's if from that you're able to kind of pick some things out, that helps you now. Because it's interesting where it's just like we complain and bitch and moan about our days at Rockstar, but there's some things from it that I still learn and I use today. So just kind of curious.
Emotional detachment, complete emotional detachment.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, it's not good for the work, ultimately, but I'm a hired gun. I'm basically the Mandalorian. You know what I mean?
So
it's just there's no minus the Baby Yoda. It's just
that was your first major entry into the industry, right?
yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting, I know coming from 3DO and then going to Rockstar, those are like two opposites.
Mm-hmm.
So now what's funny is after, I go work with people, and whenever it calls for speed, I'm like 3DO hat, pull my 3DO hat on, and then just start plowing through stuff, throwing stuff left and right. This has got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about level 3. We'll call it level 4, and we will skip level 3 completely. I don't care. Just go, go, go. And that serves a purpose. Other times, it's like I switch on Rockstar mode, and it's like, this has got to be right. I need to see 15 versions of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get hardcore and just plow into the work. Start researching like crazy. Get everything just exactly right. Somebody needs to get talked to. Call them up. Everybody's getting together. We're gonna hammer this out right now and fix it. Nothing moves until we get this right.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of their way. So I kind of value both of those, but I honestly couldn't imagine that being my first experience. And that's when that's a crazy first experience. And you were on table tennis with us, so it's not even as intense as it probably would have been.
To say that this is the most first world thing ever. I mean, I always feel like I have to say that it was traumatic would be correct. I've never experienced severe depression until Rockstar Games, specifically on Red Dead.
With the
Redemption.
cows, wasn't it?
It was because
I
with
remember
table
the
tennis.
cows.
Oh, fuck those cows.
Yeah, I remember the cows.
With table tennis, I was able to run free. Like the passion I actually used, and it helped the work improve.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is great. It comes naturally. We got something at the time that was the best looking game Rockstar had ever done, and that passion served a purpose.
Yeah.
Then when we switched over to Red Dead, I was the only one with experience on the art team with current gen tech, and nobody listened to me. I was the youngest on the team. Nobody listened to me. My leads that's when I felt the beginnings of ceilings. On table tennis, I'd never felt a ceiling. Like, that was the first time I had broken free from so many ceilings of, like, growing up and just my own life, which was kind of a little bit nuts.
That was intentional, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
what we tried to do was set up a system where we were ahead of their feedback or anybody's feedback.
Yeah.
And once we got that pace, it was just our job to maintain that feedback. So we'd have 3 or 4 builds backed up, and they're like, "Hey, send us the new," and we would just send the next one in the queue. But the intentional part of just, let's see what we can get away with, let's see what we can make, let's see how far ahead we can go before, I don't want to say they catch us, but before they come down here and start, sprinkling their love all over the place.
Yeah.
Which at one point did happen when they set up camp, literally in the middle of our work area. I was like, really? Okay.
Actually, that's the lesson. You were asking, Jeff, what did I learn that I still carry with me? And that is the lesson. With table tennis, it was a small team. And when it's a small team of people doing something, you can actually do good stuff. You can do the best work. Once it's a bigger team, it's all fucked. There's more cooks in the kitchen, there's more people with their own individual agendas, which are not to make the best product. It's about pleasing whoever else. And it's just, if you have a small team, you can kind of control, you can design the output of work better, because it's a smaller group of people. It's almost like a military unit. Like, it's when you send in the Marines, you're not gonna. It's just brute force.
Yeah.
The Navy SEALs roll in a small group.
Yeah.
And they get shit done.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like. It felt like being specialized, and everything that you did mattered. To now we're giant, and you are a cog.
Yeah.
And that is the lesson that I learned from Rockstar. It's invaluable. Nothing will ever be as hard as making that transition.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that, Ben, you said that that's the way it was set up. It worked, and it's something that I think about all the time. And, like, if we can just pare this down, and that was 2006. I just, for the 2019, experienced that for a second time. So a bunch of bullshit in between 2006 and 2019 to feel that small group of just, like, we're actually doing great work.
It has to be pointed out, right? That's what you guys experienced, especially in the machine that is Rockstar, was an outlier. We have to give context of, like, what happened and how we got there, how you guys got there, right? It came on the heels of Agent, being started, restarted, rebooted, so many different times, right? Eventually ended up being Red Dead Redemption, to give, some context. And so it had a whole bunch of people that were in this studio that got hired for this project that just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And so they needed to find all these other side projects. And if you remember, Ben, all of the Agent people got scattered to the wind, and there were 3 different projects that got, basically parsed out. There was like a game, there was table tennis, and there was basically a game. I got put on the thing. I think AJ went to, you went, Ben, to to table tennis, and it just was doomed from the beginning because not enough resources for one, and it was just felt like it's just busy work to try to kind of until they find something else for us to do.
No.
And I ended up going to Midnight Club. However, it happened, and I think a lot of it was because it was the pet project of one of the main guys, one of the owners of the company, had a vested interest in table tennis. I think by the grace of that, I think that's what saved you guys. And it was one of those weird things where, and I'll be honest with you guys, at the time it was like, oh, that's not going to see the light of day.
Well, let me tell you what happened. We were so scared because of what the project was.
Yeah.
We racked our brains daily figuring out what could we do, how could we keep this afloat,
Yes.
how could we keep our jobs, how could we keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I hadn't released a game with Rockstar. A lot of the other people on the team hadn't released product with Rockstar.
Yep.
And it gave us this connection to the work that was just crazy. It's like, we have to get in here, we have to do this. It's like, what's the most we can do to keep us in tow so we get to that next step. We were copying code from the other projects, hacking them in, sending various builds. Hey, make sure you look at this, and it was like serious work. And at some point, I realized that we had the benefit of being the runt of the projects.
Yep.
Because we didn't have as much oversight. We could have, the artists were just throwing stuff in, and we would kind of decide, well, maybe this worked, maybe it didn't. But we didn't have the back and forth of well, hold on now, is this really the game we want to build? Let's sit back and think about this. It was like type, send. Type, send. And we just kind of wanted to let them know, hey, we're making changes, we're making updates. So it got to the point where even if we didn't work on that project, we wanted to be known as somebody who can get something out quickly, effectively, something that works. And basically it did. In fact, we started working on AI projects, visual projects, just different things to show them that, like, if we had a spare programmer for a day or two, we would go in that guy's, get in his business and like, hey, do you have any demos of, you ever make any example code that does X, Y, and Z? Well, I did this lighting lights. Okay, we got lights. Let's have a swing light above the table. Get it out as fast as possible. I don't care. Just show them that we have some kind of tech, anything. So we would just cobble all the stuff together as hard and as fast as we could and send it up. And at some point, that led into being that process where we were just trying to send out builds and staying ahead. And that didn't stop until the game was released.
Right.
And, I think that's the story that kind of goes around is, it was a pet project, yes, but it very easily could have been stopped at any moment.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, so I don't know if you remember how long we were there when, it got to the point where I was like, the little Walmart that you passed on the way to work. It got to the point where I was buying socks and underwear because I didn't have enough time, literally, to wash my clothes. So I was just like, screw it, man. I'm just going to buy some socks, buy some underwear, back at work. Yeah. And, that was something I wanted to do. I was putting, I just had to make all this stuff work. Then at some point, it got serious. I don't know when that crossover happened, but at some point it got serious. I'll give Theo a call back in a second. But what I wanted to do was, I wanted to let people know that within all this game development and all this game playing, we've enjoyed games as a product. We've all had fun with Jeff playing foreign language Japanese imports that RPGs, which I still don't understand how you could actually play through a foreign language Japanese RPG and
Just
not
hit B or
understand it.
A. Just hit B or A. and hope that you pick wisely.
I was always just randomly grabbing different games that nobody else was playing. I remember I was one of the first people to play through Super Pitfall on the NES. Nobody else gave a shit about that game. Zanac, like one of those early crazy shooters. All my friends were playing Tekken or not Tekken at the time, but Tecmo Bowl. That's what I meant to say. Just thinking of all these classic games, right? I was intentionally going to get games that weren't on anyone's radar. Raph, you've also come up with. You've had some. You've been a connoisseur of some Japanese titles as well.
Oh yeah, but probably because of fighting games mostly.
Yeah. Okay.
And that led into trying to get all the. When I went to college, there was just all of these Japanese fighting games that were just great, man. Like some made it to the US, but some just didn't, and they were just good fighting games, like the best fighting games. Like rest in peace to a great era of fighting games. It's just not the same anymore.
Yeah,
it's just truly not the same.
And I remember you and Barasa,
oh my god,
and Marcellus putting me on this stuff, and I just had no clue. But I want to make the realization that history right there has given us all a context, just a lens for looking at life. And I know Jeff and I have talked about this quite a bit, but the art that I do with the 8-bit Cubist is centered around a core concept that a lot of people don't really understand. And I want you to question me on this concept and let me know, what you think, where this could go, or the holes in it. But I tend to think of life as a game. Well, driving down the street, you're thinking, if I pass that cop car, is a star going to show up in the top left corner of the screen?
I'd like to let you know the star already exists.
Yes.
Because, skinny. So.
The baked in star?
Yeah, the baked in star. Right? So you're driving down with one star already.
Yes. If you're, we speak in terms of like, think in terms of leveling up. You're trying to get to that next level in your life. You move cities. You're going to a new stage. You're, you hit a brick wall in a game. You can't get any farther. Maybe you're stuck somewhere in your life, in your relationship, in your job. It's become this lens for me that keeps on coming back. That I don't want to say I can't get rid of it, but it's just a recurring theme, and I realized and traced it back to like when I was a kid, just sitting in front of the TV playing games for as long as I could, and I now have this language of the way I think about the world because of games. And I know that I'm not the only one. Just as many tropes as you can come up with, there's a parallel from games to life. So in the past year, I decided to bring back the 8-bit Cubist and really focus on making that idea of games as life much more, go much more in depth with it. So all of the paintings that I'm working on, all of the art that I'm working on, kind of follows this model, and I don't know where it's going to lead or where it's going to end up. But people always ask, "Am I fan art? Do I do fan art? Do I, am I trying to be an artist in the game industry?" And the answer is no. What I'm really trying to do is what you were hinting at, not hinting at, what you expressly stated before about production art versus being an artist. I really have a message I want to get out, and I don't know how to do it. And my conduit has become the 8-bit cubist. I don't know how that sounds, and I do have trouble putting it to words, but whenever I create my art, I feel it.
So if someone were to ask you, well, what is your art? What would you tell them? And what's their response?
What I usually end up telling them is, actually, I will tell you what I tell them right after I try calling Theo again. Let me do this one more time before I get into that.
Put a pin in that.
Yeah, let me put a pin in that right quick. All right, Raph, you think he's gonna pick up?
I don't know. Let's see.
It's not looking promising.
Man.
Come on, buddy.
Oh. All right, we'll try again. What have people asked me? What have I about my art? It's funny. I get two basic camps, and there's a third small sliver of people that I think connect with it, and immediately. But most people need a little time with what I'm doing. So most people say, "Oh, that's cute," and kind of keep walking. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. That's expected from pop artists. You know, if you're just painting a soup can or whatever, a seemingly banal object, is it banal or banal? Banal?
I've always said banal.
Banality, whatever. A seemingly a simple object. It's like, why would anybody paint that, and why would anybody care? But then that's the question I want to ask. You know, I want to go further than that. This is a body of work, and a lot of people see the work and just kind of pass by, and that's fine. I get it. And then I have another set of people who see it as, oh, this guy is painting video game characters or video game like iconography, and then they take it as that. Neither of those really are what I'm going for. Right. You know, just painting pictures of a Bullet Bill or Spyro the Dragon just to be doing so. This is a legitimate pop art thing where I'm making a statement about life and how we relate to the world around us. In fact, that is the reason why I've stopped painting from actual characters. So all the work you've seen lately, these are pixel and sprite constructions that I've come up with myself. These are not from anything. So that has helped. But when I explain it to people, I'm like, hey, I make iconography from games to explore the idea that life is in fact a game. That doesn't go terribly far though. Mm-hmm. But I don't even know how to really describe it, and that's a problem.
I think while you were telling us this, I kept on looking at this piece that you have behind you of the rice bowl.
Yes.
And it just kind of hit me. It's because you're making assets. You're essentially doing assets. And that's great for the exploration. Mm-hmm. But that is not, when I view you, that is not the brilliance that I thought you had. It's in design. But I think you have to make a world in like a giant thing that people can sit and live in. Because at that point, you're designing the fun. You're designing the feeling. Like you're creating these paintings. You're creating this art to express a feeling. But the language that it seems like that you know best is how to guide somebody's experience.
Yes. So within the context of an art show, I think I do that much better, and I'm getting there. So with the last show I did, Revenge of the Bit, I left like you just looked at the rice bowl. I had a set of stereotypical foods. That's what the whole thing was. Everybody, there was the rice bowl, the pasta plate, the fried chicken, the chicken. It was stereotypical food. So when you see them all in a group and you're thinking, this is kind of like a cultural power up. This is, what I use to replenish myself, my soul, and comfort food. This is stuff that we're all comfortable with and we understand. But without the context of seeing all of them in a row or seeing a lot of my work, I'm still working at how do I start getting towards these more complex ideas. Because I think if I start throwing out the more complex stuff, it just starts getting weird. And I think the piece that's connected with people the most is actually the mountain range. And it's called A Range of Expectations. And there's a whole connection with Bob Ross. Are you, in classic villages, mountains are there to protect you, and to keep people out. They can, it's also a barrier. Like, hey, if I want to get somewhere, I have to cross these treacherous mountains. There's a lot of things that mountains represent to us. And this was a mountain of mine. Let me get this show done. Let me channel Bob Ross. But this is like one of those heavy art concepts where dumbasses like me, lay on the floor and stare at the ceiling thinking, what does a mountain mean? It's just let's ask Theo, see if he
The third time is indeed the charm.
Try it again.
Hello.
Hey, Theo.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, man?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Going good. I got some guests here with me. Just want you to know.
Oh, okay, who else is there?
Hey, what's up, Theo? It's Jeff.
Yeah, it's a long time no talk, man.
I know, brother. How you been?
Hey, man, I can't complain.
I hear you.
And we also have someone else.
Yo, it's Raph. How's it going, man?
What's up, guys? How you guys been?
Great.
Oh,
Yeah, man. We were just by luck of the draw, all our schedules worked out. I was about to start putting out some other episodes of the podcast, and we had a chance to get together. And I was like, this thing is not complete. I need to call my boy Theo.
Oh, man, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for thinking of me. We're here in Florida, Tampa, Florida. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we had a question for the podcast. We're all been in the video game industry, and I've been doing this new art thing for the past year, kind of rebooting, reformatting what I'm doing with the 8-bit Cubist. And we needed not an outsider, a person's opinion from someone who's not in games like we were, but definitely understood them, played them a lot, and you have good perspective. So I just wanted to get your ideas or perspectives on what you've seen in the past year with the prints.
In regards to what? Games or just
In regards to an artistic expression. I don't know. What does it mean to you? What does it express to you, if anything?
Artistic expression. Oh man, what in 2019, 2020?
2019, yeah.
Oh man, shoot. Let's see. For me, I don't play as many games as I used to, right? So most of the stuff I've kind of felt something from an artistic standpoint, been around movies and music, right, and stuff like that. So those are kind of things that kind of made me move and feel a certain way. I mean, of course, I go to the IGN, website every so often, and I'm aware what games are out there and what's happening. But most of the stuff has been around movies and TV shows that kind of
Yeah.
inspired me and made me feel something.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. But the reason that I wanted to make sure you were included was just because of that. And, precisely because you have a broader maybe viewpoint than we do, because we've seen games in a certain light. So when you see let's say the revenge print, the floating heart that I made. You remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so when you see something like that, what does that say to you in terms of like that versus what art should be? I don't know.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, I'm familiar, I guess, is the play on kind of some of the stuff around Zelda, hunting for certain things, and that gives you that extra life. So for me, it kind of, it does, to me, it kind of, hints at, next level where art could be. I think it's something that, video games are kind of like, the language, now, this generation, and pop culture, I think, you hit that vein of something different and unique, right? Where, that means something to some people, right? Where, you see a heart floating, hey, this is something that, I can go after, right? This is, a new life for me, right, if you will. So I think it does mean something, when you kind of use, I guess, iconography, from video games and things like that in your art, because that can inspire a lot of folks to kind of speak that same language. Very similar to folks did, in the Renaissance time, right, and things like that, using, iconography for that time to kind of inspire people to feel something. So, so to me, I think it's relevant to the time. It's definitely something that, hopefully we'll see a lot more of.
Yeah. Thoughts on that, Jeff? You were...
No, I was thinking of something else.
Okay, good.
No, I had something else in my head. Sorry.
No, that was thank you for that, Theo. I sit in here and think in my own bubble, and I don't get enough of a good perspective from the elder statesman, so I want to make sure I called up.
Elder, okay, thank you. By a year, yeah.
Oh, right. So yeah, man, we're just gonna try to keep this going. I really wanted to put together a podcast that's much more art and philosophy based, which was really the genesis of what I wanted to do back from the very get go. But things being what they were, we went with the flow, and it was a good thing. I'm not knocking it at all. But I just want to now, in this current era, make sure that I'm differentiating myself and putting out things that are actually going to, resonate with people. So that's the direction I'm coming from with this.
No, I love it, man. It definitely, you got to put your information out there. People love to, dive deep into some of this stuff. And, I listen to podcasts all the time about, TV shows and movies, and like, oh yeah, that's what they meant, right? And so I love the behind the scenes stuff and, the philosophy around, maybe some of your latest piece of work and like that. I mean, I know Raphael is there. I mean, I know he has some interesting work, especially the Biggie and the, I forgot the Modoc. I forgot what you called it, but I thought that was interesting. The story behind that. I would love to kind of get the philosophy on that eventually one day. But yeah, so stuff like that, going behind the scenes, understand the philosophy of some of the latest, some of these new art that you guys are going to put out there. I think that's going to be very important, dive into. Someone on the outside, right? So I think, definitely keep it up, man.
Absolutely. Well, totally appreciate that. Was there anything else you wanted to just say to the general populace? I don't want to hold you too long.
Nah, man, this is awesome, man. The four of us back. I mean, shoot, what was that? I can't remember. What was that? Back before Facebook was Facebook?
Yeah.
I think it was Comic-Con last time we were all together.
Yeah. It was a Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con. We were all together.
Oh man.
Yeah, but what year was that? It had to be before the 2010s, right? So
Yeah.
That's when I was talking to
been a
Belinda.
minute. So, I'm glad you guys are all still, in there and trying to do things. Definitely, I'm inspired. Hopefully, you guys can bring some insightfulness, from your experiences into the game world. So yeah, include me anytime, man. I would love to, especially if you start talking about the latest in pop culture around movies. This is a great year of movies, by the way. I mean, Jeff, I don't know if you did your year in review and everything, all the movies, but I mean, I had at least 15 on my list this year. So anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. We'll definitely get into all that kind of stuff. Well, cool, man. Just wanted to touch base, and four of us, all four of our voices on the first podcast that I'm going to release. So glad that it all came together, man.
All right, man. Hey, you guys be blessed. Take care.
All right,
See you,
brother.
man. Later. Man, gotta pour one out for that last San Diego Comic Con that we were all at.
Oh man,
It's a good time.
Oh yeah,
that was.
Oh.
good food and everything. So yeah, man. Big things planned. We'll be doing some art shows, definitely. Doing the podcast. I want to keep that going. Really have some interesting ideas, and for the listeners also, I want to make sure that you're letting me know, commenting, sharing, whatever, DMing me if you don't want to be public like that. Just let me know what you're thinking. I'm going to try to go some interesting places with this, and it's all in service of talking about art and philosophy. And I found my best discussions, regardless of the art form and regardless of the particular philosophy, a lot of my best discussions about said subjects happen on these one-to-one kind of bases where we can stop, dwell on a subject for an hour or 2 hours and just kind of break it down and talk about things. I do these mental exercises on my own where something's just stuck in my head and I'm thinking about it for an hour or two. I want to start putting that into podcast form without sounding like I'm rambling. So as I put this together, we'll course correct, we'll make it better. If there's any specific topics or angles that you want me to come from, I'm completely open to it. It's all going to be formatted within the construct of life as a game. So, that sounds limiting, but it's really not. As I was telling Jeff earlier, I went through a series of ideas to see if this podcast had legs. I was like, can I really sit down and talk about life as a game for 100+ episodes within a day of just jotting down ideas? I blew past 150 singular episode topics, and I still have a problem explaining it because I didn't come from a sound bite like, hey, this kind of podcast will sound good. I came from this idea that had been floating around in my head and needed to get thought out. So I'm starting from the extremely in-depth and non-specific and trying to say, okay, what is this that I'm thinking about, and then packaging it. But yeah, the ideas, I came up with 150 plus something ideas, and offline we can go over some of those and I'll just spitball them at you guys and let me know where I'm headed in the right direction, let me know where I'm full of shit.
I think it'd be interesting because I see where you're coming from, because it's like there's a germination of some idea. You don't necessarily know where it's going to take you or what the end result is.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like, but there's going to be some that have a very definite endpoint. And it almost seems like it's going to be a combination of the two. And maybe the ones that don't necessarily have that endpoint or that finish line, if you will, are probably going to be the more interesting ones.
And I think that's where you get into interesting art, where you're not sure where you're going.
Where it's going.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I think I look, at least conceptually, I look more forward to those where it's just like it's the central core kernel of an idea or a topic and where that's going to take you, and then just kind of see where this ride, leads. So interesting. All right. Well, I mean, I look forward to hearing this. It's been a minute since we've done anything, podcast related. Much less listening to you, and hearing anything, from days back with Pi-Ow to early 8-bit.
Pi-Ow, son.
So it's about time.
Yeah. All right. Raph?
I'm here for the ride. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. So
Awesome, man.
that's all I got for right now. So.
And I do want to play the commercial before we head out, in case you didn't hear it. But before I do that, where can people find you, Raph?
Primarily on Instagram, at Jehudi-san. It's a terrible name, but it's the robot from Zone of the Enders. Zone of the Enders 2 had a very big impact on me, and that was the name I used for fighting game tournaments, everything. But JEHUTYSAN.
I actually didn't know that came from Zone of the Enders.
Yep.
Now
I'm going to do a piece this year, just reminding everybody about how great that game is. So, yeah.
And where can we find you, Jeff, if you want to be found?
Let's see. So, Facebook. I'm decided I want to try to get back into some of my more proper photography stuff. I mean, you've seen I've done like the pick of the week. It's like on my phone and stuff like that, which is fine. But I want to kind of get back more into the the proper, if you will, SLR type photography type things. So you can find me Facebook on what is that? Hefe June on Facebook. That's also on Instagram.
Right.
And with Theo mentioned before, I used to do the movie review stuff with Yell and Jeff. I took a hiatus on that, but I don't know if you guys saw recently, like I had posted like a little teaser, so I'm thinking I'm going to be getting back into that.
Oh, shit.
So just trying to figure out like what the format's going to be and all the other things. So that might even seg into a podcast of my own, or kind of try to figure out some other things.
Yell and Jeff, boy.
So so Yell and Jeff on Facebook, and then also on Instagram as well. So.
All right, and for 8-Bit Cubists, if you just want the art and the projects, 8BITCUBIST, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you search that, it'll also come up, and the website is the8bitcubist.com. I'm actually going to be funneling a lot more stuff to the website, so be sure you check it out and check the updates. Me personally, at Mr. Benja, MRBENJA, you'll be able to catch randomness from me. But if you don't want all the extra nonsense, just follow 8-Bit Cubist. And the commercial, as I was saying, did either both of you watch the commercial? Either of you?
Yeah.
What commercial?
All right, we'll load up the commercial right quick.
Oh wait, this was the commercial that announcing
the
return.
podcast. Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, listen up, everybody. I am Mr. Benja, lead creative and founder of the 8-Bit Cubist, here to announce that version 4.0 of the 8-Bit Cubist podcast is here. It's like the Windows 95 of all my podcasts. You may know us from the internet, game industry parties, E3, Jeff's House, Blackton Gaming, Penny Arcade Expo, Giant Robot, the City of Armadillo in Red Dead Redemption, Hooters of Oceanside, PAX East, San Diego Comic-Con, That Pizza Place, the Pasadena Art Walk, GamerCon, WonderCon, Anacon, the LA Zine Fest, the LB Zine Fest, Studio 361, Bar Basic San Diego, Bixby Knowles Art Walk, the Long Beach Arts Association, the Long Beach Art Expo Center, your mama's house, your daddy's house, your baby mama's house, San Pedro First Thursday, the Art Pound, the Midnight Sun Sports Club, or any other places I might just happen to show up. When you find me in the 8-Bit Cubist, you'll see that I've reformatted my visual style and message to give you the best perspective on life that you could ever hope to have. That is, it's all a game. Yep, all of it. Basically, I'll be talking mad shit about art, design, technology, and philosophy. And in the words I'm still trying to formulate for this thing, it's human nature as seen when viewing life as a game. Design, technology, philosophy, and some personal stories and my art. How is that even possible? I don't know. I haven't recorded these episodes yet. But most importantly, I want to connect with you, and for me, a podcast is the best way to do that. Now, it's very important that you subscribe, comment, and share. You don't even have to like, because I don't care if you like it. I just need the numbers for the algorithm. I want the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Stitcher podcast, and the iTunes, the Google Play Store. I need all that to start popping off with this podcast. So therefore, subscribe, comment, share. All right? Cool. I'll be seeing you soon. And once again, this is Mr. Benja with the 8-Bit Cubist podcast.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for being here.
This
Thank you for having
was
us.
very fun.
All right. Let's go get some drink.
But yeah, so sorry about that. When you were talking with Theo, why I was shaking my head is I was thinking about what you brought up, Raph, with the food, and for whatever reason, and I guess it's just just because it's just occupational hazard. It's like I started thinking about it from a design perspective, of like the whole idea of like stereotypical foods and why they're stereotypical, and I kept going back to like, well, how would I design that? From a design perspective, how would I try to address that? And for me, it was like the connecting tissue to all of it is how do you tie in race, right, or whatever it is that makes it stereotypical. So obviously you have rice bowls and you have chicken, and you have pasta. Is there something? I keep going back to like, how can I connect these things without being overtly in your face about it?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just one of those things where it was just like maybe something as simple as the background on the rice bowl is yellow.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Right. Chicken, black background. Maybe some play on the Italian flag colors. For pasta.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it was just one of those things where it's just like, immediately I went into design mode, and it's like, well, how would we try to connect that? Because I see where you're coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
You brought up a great point about like, it makes sense, and some people will understand it and get it right
Mm-hmm.
away. And for others, maybe they might need a little bit more hand holding.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
So what I'm concerned with is not so much people walking by to get it,
Yeah.
but people who may have talked to me or heard the podcast,
Yes.
just run into me before, where they're like, okay, yeah, we're getting that. I know what that's about. This is cool. This is me. I'm digging it.
Yeah.
And I still kind of want to be that not 100% obvious artist. So, and I think I'm that's the line I'm treading.
Yeah.
Because I found many more problems with like, oh, he just paints video game stuff. And if someone just says that, I'm like, fine, that's good.
Yeah.
They're over there. But now I have people who, they'll look for my work, they'll look at all the captions, and they'll start connecting these dots.
Right.
And then that's when it gets good to me. Like, okay, I'm not worried about everybody. I'm not worried about, the lay person.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make sure it gets caught by the people who would be looking anyway.
Right.
So.
And not making a suggestion that that's what you should do. And again, that's why.
Oh yeah, I get it.
That's why I prefaced it with occupational hazard, because in what I do, we make games for basically soccer moms.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to talk about, you made this comment before about how the consumer is not so bright sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's literally you have to be hand holding, and almost to the point where it's just like, how can you not get this?
Yeah.
And so because that's the world that I dabble in now, I immediately go to that. And not saying that it's right or wrong, I'm saying that it's just, that's what I've become accustomed to.
Yeah.
But then I get it. And seeing your art and being exposed to it, I immediately got it. right? Didn't need
Yeah.
the hand holding, right? And so, but it was just one of those things where all of a sudden I just got into designer mode and I'm like, well, how can we make this more, apparent to the to the masses?
We've worked together, so yeah, it's funny that I do this as well. I'll throw out a disclaimer like, well, hey, I'm just saying that when my natural default designer mode is, well, hey, how about this and that, and you just start throwing out ideas and suggestions. So I'm totally good with that. Which but thank you for the
But then I felt stupid because I'm like, shit, damn it. This is not art for. Well, I mean, maybe it is, but it's just like I keep thinking of those soccer moms, and nothing against soccer moms. We love you. You help pay my bills, but whatever.
I think though, like to add context to what I originally said, when I saw those two pieces, it hit me. It's like, oh, there's something that you're trying to express that if you need to see it in person, which is great, like that's the idea, seeing it in person, it feels completely different. But I went to this Guillermo del Toro art show, 2017, I think. 2017 at the LACMA.
Okay.
He owns a second house, and his second house is filled with nothing but monsters, like some of the busts from the sculpts from his movies.
Right.
He buys from the artist, he buys from the studio, he has them in the second house. So in like a bunch of rooms, he basically curated this show of all these sketches that he owns, all these master copies of just like weird monster shit. And then you got it that it was like, no, this guy truly loves monsters. Like the fish movie, like he would fuck the fish. You know what I mean? Like that is who he is. But you don't get it until you walk through it. And I'm just thinking like, I almost feel like this needs to be real. Like that is, and that's what I meant by like, at that point you're curating everything that people are, like the art show is one thing, but it's like if you're thinking about it on a game level, you're creating assets. And that's not your brilliance. Like I'm not saying that you shouldn't paint, because yes, but sure. If you walked into a room that was this, people will get it. You know what I mean? Like there's no unless you're that fucking dense. Yeah. Like there's no missing. It's like it's the difference between looking at this and holding this.
Yeah.
Like that's I got it looking at those two pieces, and I just kept on looking at that rice bowl, and I'm just like, and then it finally hit me, like that is there's something here, and
So, 2019, as I said, I experimented and played with a lot of ideas. I wanted to make sure I put out at least the groundwork for a lot of stuff I'm going to execute on in 2020. So, you all got the little zines, catalogs, and everything. So just coming up with the format and, okay, I can do this. Let me get a printer that works out. Let me find my paper. Boom. Now I do that just like whenever. If I need to show somebody something, I'll whip up one of those, and it's a thing. So, but before I started all of that, I really started, and just like I did with the podcast ideas, I really said, does this thing have legs? Am I going to? I did that whole process for this art, and I thought, yeah, there's enough here. Something needs to be explored in some way. What's I don't want to say just the fastest, but what's the most efficient way I can start getting this process rolling? People understand prints and art shows. And actually the print game came into play because, all I was doing was originals at first. And well, you saw it. You were at the at Fingerprints, and the wall originals. That's one thing, but that's not accessible to a lot of people. And pull back a little bit, start showing people some prints, and it's like, oh, okay, this is a little more accessible. This is the tutorial stage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I didn't. Who said that? It was either it was Jay-Z had spoken about putting ideas out that are too far ahead of where the public is at. It's like, yeah, he's got Jay-Z ideas that are 5 years out, but he can't put them out right now because there are 4 other sets of ideas that need to bring people up to speed. And this is not like a, you know, high art world kind of I'm smarter than you, better than you kind of thing. It's just that, well, yeah, before, you know, before the phone was invented, you can't say, hey, listen, I'm in New York. I'm going to talk to this guy in California. When? Tomorrow. It's like, what? How are you going to get there? How are you going to, you can't send a letter that fast. You can't send, what are you talking about? It just didn't make sense. Even though he may have had the entire plan worked out about how to build a telephone and such and such and such. It's just, you can't make these leaps. And I didn't get that for a while. Like, how do you explain where VR could go to somebody who's never put on a VR headset?
It's possible.
Exactly. It's like, well, yeah, first we have to get everybody used to the idea of putting on a VR headset. Then we could start going into all these other dimensions of what VR could be. Multiplayer gaming, I couldn't have understood World of Warcraft before the internet. I couldn't have understood World of Warcraft before, like, Four Swords. You know, I'm like, I didn't make that connection of, well, wait a minute, everybody's got their own screen and they're just running around looting, and why would you ever run into anybody else? And it just didn't make sense until you got in there and you played all these in between steps. So yeah, I'll definitely be tapping you guys for, you know, your knowledge and perspective. But I think we got something.
Cool.